Alrighty, friends and neighbors, this is old Tucker back again. Back up on the mountaintop, ready to tell you another story. Well, this is one about a porch gift as a given to me. I still remember the night he gave it to me. I was just 12 years old, just tall enough to look a man in the eyes, but I was still half wild and running barefoot on gravel roads and scraping my knees on creek stones, I guess. Well, old granddaddy called me out to the porch. He didn't holler or fuss. He just said my name low and steady. When that man called, let me tell you, young'uns, you came a-running. Now, the porch light was glowing soft and the moths were bumping on the glass, and the smell of pipe tobacco hung in the air. Well, he reached in his pocket on his overalls and pulled out that knife. He didn't say much. He just pressed it down into my palm, and he wrapped my fingers around it and said, "Boy, that's a man's pocket knife, and it'll tell you the story of his life. How you use it matters. How you carry it matters even more." That was it. No sermon, no explaining. He just leaned back in his chair and sipped on his coffee a little bit and then watched the old holler settle into night. But me, I was sitting there holding more than still. I was a-holding a promise. Now, a boy with a knife is like a squirrel with a corn cob. He don't rightly know what to do with it at first, but he'll stay busy anyhows. I set to whittling right off, sat on creek banks and peeled sticks till there's nothing but shavings at my feet. Made a mess more than I made anything useful, to be honest. But one day, sitting under the big sycamore by the bend, I carved out a little old fish. Now, it weren't perfect, I mind you. Crooked tail, lopsided fins, but you could squint and see it was meant to be a trout. Well, I carried it home like it was a treasure, and I laid it on old granddaddy's lap. He picked it up, turned it over in them old rough hands of his, and he chuckled low to himself and said, "Knife'll teach you patience. World'll teach you the rest." And he set that fish up on the mantel right between a cold lamp and a Bible. And it stayed there till the very day he passed. Every time I looked at it, I remembered. Even crooked work can be holy if it's made honest. Well, friends, that knife taught me more than any book ever has. Used it to cut twine baling hay and trim kindling wood for the fire. Opened seed sacks with it and scraped off my muddy boots and then amended some harness straps. Why, there weren't a day it didn't leave my pocket. One winter, lean and mean, I sat by the fire with it, shaving corn cobs down for kindling. Cupboard was near empty and the snow was stacking up on the roof. And I remember feeling like that little blade was the only thing standing between us and the cold outside. Funny how a piece of steel can feel like hope when times are thin. Now, not every memory tied to that knife was noble. Why, me and my cousin Earl, Lord, we was fools sometimes. One summer afternoon, we got ourselves tangled with a snapping turtle down by the pond. I remember it like it's yesterday. Earl had it by the tail, swearing he'd wrangle it around like it was a coon dog. That turtle clamped down on a stick and near took Earl's thumb clean off with it. He was a-hollering, I was a-laughing, and then realizing this fool thing might maim both of us. So I pulled that knife out and slid the stick loose. I cut old Earl free, and That old turtle sank back in the mud, and he was madder than a wet hen. I guess mad as an old turtle, I guess. Earl swore that knife saved his hand. I swore it was Granddaddy's steel and the good Lord's mercy working together on it. But not every save was so loud. Sometimes it was quiet things. That knife opened letters from kin far away, and it sliced apples for a neighbor who'd gone hungry. It carved out crosses we'd set by our headstones. It even trimmed wildflowers once for a girl I thought I loved. She laughed at the crooked stems, but she kept them anyway, so I guess it worked. You see, a pocket knife don't just cut rope. It carves moments out. Big and small, sacred and silly. When Granddaddy passed, we gathered on that porch where he'd given me the knife. Hymns floating through the yard, casseroles lined up on every table, and silence hanging heavier than smoke. That night I pulled out the knife and just turned it over in my hand. Saw every nick, every scratch like pages in the book. That blade was his handwriting, scratched across steel. Well, when my own boy turned 12, I knew what I had to do. I called him out to the porch. Same old lantern was a-glowing. Same moths bumping at the glass. I put that old knife in his hand and said, "A man's pocket knife will tell the story of his life. How you use it matters, and how you carry it matters more." That's the same tale my grandpappy told me. When I saw his eyes shine, I swear Granddaddy was standing right there just a-nodding right along with me. Well, so when you see a boy flipping open a little knife, don't just see the steel, see the story. Could be cutting twine, carving trout, may even be saving fools from turtles, or keeping a far alive in them lean years. That knife may look ordinary, but it's stitched together with memory and with faith and with love. Well, that's about the end of that story, so y'all close them eyes. Y'all can rest easy knowing sometimes the smallest things, a quilt square, a song, a pocket knife, carry the biggest stories. You know, if you listen real quiet, you might just hear them tales whispering right along with the crickets. Me and old Dixie wish you a good night from these mountains, and God bless yous all. We'll keep you in our prayers, and we hope you'll keep us in yourn, and we'll talk at you the next time.